The room erupted before I even understood what was happening. Mason slammed the gavel so hard the conference table shook. Our uncles, our cousins, longtime project managers, everyone was there. My brother's voice cracked through the noise like a whip. I moved to permanently remove Jamie from Briggs Construction Holdings, effective immediately. Gasps, chairs scraped, someone whispered, "Is he serious?" My stomach dropped, my hands went cold. We weren't discussing a contract or a project bid. He was throwing me out of our father's company without warning. "You don't get to," I started. Mason cut me off. "Security." Two men stepped forward, the same guys who used to help Dad carry lumber when we were kids. I could feel 50 eyes digging into me. I could feel humiliation blooming under my skin like fire. "Let's vote," Mason snapped. Hands shot up, almost all of them. People I'd eaten Thanksgiving with, people who taught me to drive forklifts, people who hugged me at Dad's funeral. My world tilted. That was the moment I knew Mason had planned this. And he wanted me broken. My name is Jamie, and before that day, I believed family meant something. I was wrong. My introduction was simple. I was the younger son, the one who handled the project details, kept crews paid, and kept things moving. Dad taught Mason leadership and taught me responsibility. Mason resented that deeply. Growing up, he needed to be the star. He needed Dad's attention in ways I didn't understand until I got older. When Dad died, Mason lost the one person he was still performing for, and he made the company his new stage. Over time, he made sure every success was labeled his leadership, and every problem became Jamie's mistakes. Still, I never imagined he would kick me out. Not until I found the altered spreadsheets. Not until I saw the false numbers blaming me for a 6-figure project loss. That was the first moment something in me broke. But the bigger break came later. 2 weeks before that vote, Mason summoned me to his office. He leaned back in Dad's old chair, the leather one with the indentation from decades of work, and said with a smirk, "You're becoming a liability." My jaw tightened. "You falsified those numbers." He shrugged. "Perception is reality." A quiet threat. He wanted me silent, compliant, small. When I left his office, 3 supervisors avoided meeting my eyes. They already knew. Mason had been poisoning the well for months. And I walked straight into a trap I didn't even know existed yet. Next, the shock that Mason already moved against me behind my back. When security escorted me out after the vote, I tried my keycard on the front entrance out of pure denial. Red. Then again. Red. Then my email disconnected. Then my phone lost access. One by one, my ties to the company vanished like someone deleting my existence. A cousin stepped outside to smoke and wouldn't even look at me. That humiliation burned deeper than the vote itself. That night, alone in my apartment, something clicked into place. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to plead with the family. I was going to rebuild. Quietly. And I was going to outsmart the man who thought he had destroyed me. 3 days later, my old mentor, Tom Garrison, called me. He'd heard about the incident. He said, "You're too good to be out of work. I've got struggling builders who need exactly what you do." Consulting. I hadn't even considered it. Turns out there was a long list of small construction firms who needed help organizing budgets, catching contractor fraud, and recovering from mismanagement. My first client paid me more in 2 weeks than my brother paid me in a month. And I realized something. Without Mason hovering over me, I was good. Really good. Money stabilized, confidence returned. And then the first twist landed in my lap. One day, a subcontractor asked if I knew a good commercial roofer. "Depends," I said. "What building?" He typed an address into his phone and slid it to me. I stared at the screen. It was our asterisk building. Briggs Construction's headquarters. "Roof leaks," he said. "Landlord hasn't done repairs in years. Tenants are fighting over who pays." Landlord. My brother had always bragged about owning the building. Apparently not. And if repairs weren't done, the building would be legally vulnerable. I went home that night with one thought circling in my head. Maybe there's a way to win without touching Mason at all. Maybe I can win by understanding what he ignores. I pulled property records. And there it was. The office building wasn't owned by Briggs Construction. It was owned by a private landlord named Frank Holland. Frank was in his 70s, behind on taxes, owed money on the building. Public records told me something else. He was desperate. The building was a financial anchor sinking him. And Mason was 6 months behind on maintenance reimbursements. A crack wide enough for me to slip through. I didn't want to hurt Mason. I wanted the truth to surface. I wanted fairness, but I knew Mason didn't understand fairness, only power. What's the opposite of begging to be let back in? Becoming the one person he unknowingly depends on. I didn't call Frank immediately. I spent 3 weeks researching tax law, commercial lease law, landlord rights, tenant obligations, everything. I wasn't plotting vengeance. I was preparing leverage. When I finally called Frank, he sounded exhausted. "I'd sell the damn place tomorrow if I could," he muttered. "Are you serious?" I asked. "As a heart attack, you want it, make an offer." I needed an investment partner. Banks wouldn't touch me without a larger portfolio. Tom introduced me to a quiet investor who specialized in distressed commercial properties. We formed an LLC, Northgate Holdings *. Within 6 weeks, Frank accepted our offer. The ink dried, and I became Mason's landlord. He had no idea. I read the building's lease line by line. Halfway through, I found it, buried under vague legal language. A deferred maintenance responsibility clause. Translation: if Briggs Construction failed to address building-related maintenance complaints for more than 180 days, the landlord could demand immediate reimbursement for all accumulated damages plus penalties. Mason had ignored those complaints for 2 years. I didn't need revenge. I just needed to follow the rules Mason never cared to. I mailed a formal request for payment. $64,200 in deferred maintenance. Due in 30 days. I used the LLC, no real name. I wasn't hiding, I was waiting. 2 weeks passed. No response. On day 29, a check arrived. But it bounced. Financial trouble. That's when my strategy shifted from observation to pressure. I ordered a full building inspection. Legally, I could. The inspector filed a 43-page report. Electrical violations. Plumbing issues. Structural settlement risk. Non-compliant fire doors. Years of negligence. Mason had let the building rot. The report triggered another clause. Mandatory repairs within 90 days. Failure equals default. This time the bill wasn't $64,000. It was $218,000. Mason couldn't ignore this. Word got around. My aunt mentioned at dinner with extended family that Mason was stressed, losing weight, yelling at staff. "He's dealing with some building nonsense," she said. I hid my smile behind my water glass. For once, his temper was turning inward instead of toward me. But I didn't celebrate. This wasn't revenge yet. This was accountability. One morning, my LLC phone vibrated. Unknown number. I answered. A sharp voice: "This is Mason Briggs. I need to speak with whoever owns Northgate Holdings." My pulse jumped, but I kept my voice even. "This is the owner. I need extensions. This repair list is insane. The building's always been fine." "I understand your concerns," I said, "but your lease outlines the requirements clearly." Silent. He wasn't used to anyone telling him no. Finally he asked, "Who the hell are you?" "Your landlord," I repeated. And I hung up. Mason hired a lawyer to challenge the repair demands. The lawyer lasted 2 weeks before withdrawing due to client non-cooperation. Then Mason tried ignoring the deadlines. I sent formal default notices. He tried renegotiating. I politely refused. Every move he made triggered another contractual consequence. Every delay added penalties. Every outburst he directed at staff created internal resistance. I wasn't fighting him. I was letting his arrogance fight itself. A project manager, someone I'd worked with for 10 years, called me privately. "I'm done," he said. "Your brother's unhinged. People are quitting in clusters. He can't keep up." Within a month, 7 employees resigned. 2 clients pulled their contracts. Payroll fell behind. I wasn't causing harm. I was watching the consequences of years of neglect rip open. And Mason still didn't know the real identity of his landlord. Legally, once a tenant was in default for more than 60 days, the landlord could pursue eviction or buyout negotiations. I sent the final default notice *. It required immediate repairs, full payment of penalties, vacating the building in 45 days. I knew he couldn't afford repairs. He couldn't afford relocation either. His company was bleeding out. He responded with a threat. "If you push this, I'll bury you." I forwarded the message to my attorney. Then I waited. Through public filings, I found something explosive. 2 years earlier, Mason had taken out a private loan using company assets as collateral. He never told the family. And that loan was now in default too. If the lender chose to foreclose, the company could be seized. If Mason chose to pay the lender, he couldn't pay me. If he tried to pay both, he'd bankrupt himself. The perfect storm. But I wasn't aiming to destroy him financially. I just wanted accountability and closure. The building, that was personal justice. Employees said he started locking himself in his office for hours. Some days he didn't show up at all. He screamed at vendors. Cried in the hallway once. Fired the accountant for disloyalty. He was unraveling. Meanwhile, I grew my consulting business to 3 employees and a full client list. For every step he fell, I rose too. It wasn't spite. It was transformation. On the 45th day, he still hadn't paid. So I delivered the eviction notice. My attorney hand-delivered it to Mason's door. Witnesses said he froze, read it twice, then crumpled it and threw it across the lobby. He screamed that the landlord was incompetent, that the lease was rigged, that everyone was against him. But the document was legal. And time was up. He had 14 days to vacate. He insisted on a face-to-face. He demanded it, actually. I agreed. We set the meeting at the office building, his soon-to-be former headquarters. When I walked through the doors, his head snapped up. Shock froze his face. "You," he whispered. I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. I didn't enjoy it. I simply sat across from him and slid the documents over. "You've been dealing with me for months," I said, professionally and legally. He stared in disbelief. Then anger. Then fear. Then something I hadn't seen since we were kids, helplessness. "You planned this," he said. "No," I answered. "You made choices, I enforced the terms." He didn't argue. Because he knew. Losing the building triggered the private lender's foreclosure. Losing key staff triggered contractual penalties. Losing his temper triggered resignations. By the time the eviction deadline hit, Briggs Construction wasn't just struggling. It was collapsing. And none of it was because of anything illegal, manipulative, or underhanded. It was gravity, his own actions catching up. And I didn't feel triumph. Just release. On a rainy Monday morning, the sheriff's officer handed me the keys to the building. My brother wasn't there. He'd cleared out at midnight the night before. The office was empty. Dusty. Silent. Dad's old chair sat in the corner, abandoned. I touched the leather, closed my eyes. This wasn't revenge. This was reclamation. I renovated the building over 3 months. Rewired the electrical. Replaced the roof. Painted the walls. Rebuilt conference rooms. Then I hung a new sign. Jamie Carter Consulting and Development Group. Former employees of my brother applied without hesitation. I hired 4 of them. Not out of spite. Because they were good people who deserved a stable workplace. And because I chose not to repeat Mason's cruelty. Months later, I stood on the roof overlooking the city. The same roof Mason ignored for years, the same one that started everything. My business was thriving. My life was calm. My purpose was clear. I didn't hear from Mason again. I didn't want to. He wasn't part of my story anymore. Standing there, wind cold on my face, I understood something. Winning wasn't buying the building. Winning wasn't watching him fall. Winning was finally knowing I never needed his approval. My worth wasn't something Mason could give or take away. I left the roof, locked the door behind me, and walked into the life I built myself. And for the first time in years, I felt free.